thy shelter, oh my God, and it becometh him that seeketh that shelter to abide within the sanctuary of thy protection and the stronghold of thy defense. Illumine my inner being, oh my Lord, with the splendors of the day spring of thy revelation, even as thou didst illumine my outer being with the morning light of thy favor. Illumine my inner being, oh my Lord, with the splendors of the day spring of thy revelation, even as thou didst illumine my outer being with the morning light of thy favor. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And good morning, everyone out there in Zoom land. We have a different laptop today, which we use as our Zoom camera. And it's a slightly smaller screen, and I can't see the names of the people. We know you're there, though. I want to get up and actually go closer. But good morning to everyone that's joining us through Zoom, and everyone out there in Facebook land. Good morning. We're glad you're with us, whether it's in real time when we're actually beginning this program, or maybe later on you're choosing to stream it, in a time that's more convenient for you. We appreciate your support. Thank you so much. How you doing, Daryl?
Very good, sir.
Good
How
to
are you?
have you back.
Thank
Good to
you.
have you back.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Although I must say, I have to express my appreciation to Pete, who did a great job of sitting in for you last week.
Excellent job.
Yes, yes, he
Thank you,
did.
Pete.
And I also want to express my appreciation to Pete, who had the presence of mind to turn on the Facebook camera. We had already begun and did not think to turn it on. So thanks for that too, Pete. I guess we're going to, as usual, begin with a prayer.
Yes. My God, whom I worship and adore, I bear witness unto thy unity and thy oneness, and acknowledge thy gifts, both in the past and in the present. Thou art the all bountiful, the overflowing waters of whose mercy have rained down upon high and low alike, and the splendors of whose grace have been shed over both the obedient and the rebellious. O God of mercy, before whose door the quintessence of mercy has bowed down, and around the sanctuary of whose cause loving kindness in this most great spirit hath circled, we beseech thee, entreating thine ancient grace, and seeking thy present favor, that thou mayest have mercy upon all who are the manifestations of the world of being, and deny them not the outpourings of thy grace in thy days. All are but poor and needy, And thou verily art the all possessing, the all subduing, the all powerful. And this is a prayer by Baha'u'llah.
Thank you very much, Daryl. And we have a few people here in the sanctuary with us. We'd like to say good morning to all of you. Hello, Nevada. Hey there, Thomas. Glad all of you could join us. And last week, well, first of all, as usual, we need to point out that we are continuing our study. And I would there's of first of all, let me get the title out. Baha'u'llah and the New Era, Baha'u'llah and the New Era by J.E. Esselmont. We've been in this book for a few months now, and we are coming near the end. I mean, we've only got about 100 pages left to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but for anyone who might be joining us, very late in this process, this is a wonderful book to find out more about the Baha'i faith. And throughout the book, Esselmont includes uh, passages from the writings of Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder of the faith, and Abdul Baha, his son, who was appointed to continue overseeing the development of the faith. Again, this is a wonderful book that gives you a lot of insight into the Baha'i faith and new spiritual teachings for today. Now, as you can see, uh,
Well,
out,
let me
mhm,
add to that. It's not just a book for folks who are interested in learning about the Baha'i faith. It is also a great reference for those who are already Baha'is and a great deepening tool for those who are already Baha'is because it includes so many of the current writings.
excellent point, excellent point, and it's I will say, since we started reading this book, I had never read it before. I have learned so much, and I've been a Baha'i for a pretty good while now, and I have still learned so much. So again, even after we can finish this book, this is just one of those books that I recommend everybody have on their shelf and refer to it frequently. Refer to it frequently. But last week, we were looking at um, oh man, I'm having a senior moment here, but we
Life
were
and
looking
death.
at, yeah, life after death, and when it comes to spiritual issues, I will say that let me give a little more context here. I sometimes will go back. In fact, I always do go back to the Facebook version of the program with the same program, but I go back to Facebook because we can see how many people viewed it
Hmm.
on Facebook. We don't know how long they stayed on it, but the number ticked up a lot last week.
Sure.
And I think one of the reasons is because when it comes to
Excuse me.
spiritual issues, a lot of it. Pete's pointing at himself. Says it's because he was a major factor in that. Um, but it's one of those things that when it comes to spiritual issues, I think that's one of those things that people, whether have a spiritual inclination, practice a specific religion, or are one of those people that considers yourself spiritual but not religious, or even someone who questions or denies the existence of God, I think the issue of life after death is something that everyone has questions about,
Sure.
and we were able to, in that short time last week, give the guidance from Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha. It was very, very, very interesting. Um, I loved reading it, and have since read it again. It wasn't a long portion either, but I was stopping Pete so much more than I stop you, so much more than I stop because of the topic. It wasn't because it was Pete; it was because of the topic, life after death. And today, I'm going to try and resist that inclination. I don't know if I'll succeed, but today's topic is, get this, heaven and hell. Heaven and hell. And I got to tell you, no matter what you may think, unless you've already read this, I would bet for many of you, you're going to hear some interesting and surprising insights from the writings of the Baha'i faith. I do want to say hello to the lovely and talented Nini Ha, who just entered the room. If anyone who's joined us when we were doing this from my house, you know that she is my lovely wife. So I'm so glad you could join us, Nini. So um, with that extremely long lead in, I'm going to shut up and let you start reading, Daryl.
Okay. Heaven and hell. Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha regard the descriptions of heaven and hell given in some of the older religious writings as symbolic, like the biblical story of the creation, and not as literally true. According to them, heaven is the state of perfection and hell that of imperfection.
Hold it. Okay. I'm
Excuse
sorry.
me.
I've already broken my promise. Okay. I mean, I didn't promise, but this seems to be saying that heaven and hell. Okay. Last week we found out that in the spiritual realm, the existence is not physical. It sounds like that might be what they're saying here. I mean, you think about it, all of the descriptions of heaven and hell from past religions and other sources, shall we say, have generally been physical. Everyone knows about a few things. Everyone knows about fire. Everyone knows about great suffering, pain, eternal punishment. Everyone knows about this being called Satan. All of that's physical.
And that's because that's how limited we are in our ability to truly describe what that is and what they are.
Okay.
We're human, and as humans, we only know so much. We know those things that we can feel with our senses or wrap our
Ah.
brains around.
Hmm. Hmm.
So those descriptions have to fit our limited understanding.
Okay. And last week we talked about vain imaginings as, some, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that people, if they don't have clear guidance from the Almighty, sometimes some people have been inclined to just make something up based on their limited understanding and limited, abilities, shall we say?
Okay. Shall we go on?
Sure.
Heaven is harmony with God's will and with our fellows. Hell is the want of such harmony. I think I should repeat that.
I think so too.
Heaven is the harmony with God's will and with our fellows, and hell is the want of such harmony. Heaven is the condition of spiritual life, hell that of spiritual death.
Hmm.
A man may be either in heaven or in hell while still in the body. The joys of heaven are spiritual joys, and the pain of hell consists in the deprivation of these joys. Abdul Baha says, when they, men, are delivered through the light of faith from the darkness of these vices and become illuminated with the radiance of the Sun of reality and ennobled with all the virtues, they esteem this the greatest reward, and they know it to be the true paradise. In the same way, they consider that the spiritual punishment is to be subjected to the world of nature, to be veiled from God, to be brutal and ignorant, to fall into carnal lusts, to be absorbed in animal frailties, to be characterized with dark qualities. These are the greatest punishments and tortures. That's hell.
Wow.
The-
Okay. Before you begin to continue, I'm going to ask for Pete's help. Pete, could you possibly come and I don't think we need to have the Zoom camera adjusted, but could get rid of that band that's up there? It's kind of blocking the view, and I'm not sure how they're seeing us. That's the only reason I'm okay. I guess you would have known from over there, wouldn't you?
We
My
see you quite perfectly.
Thank you, Andy. While he's doing that, I'll go on. The rewards of the other world are the perfections and the peace obtained in the spiritual worlds after leaving this world.
Mhm.
The spiritual graces, the various spiritual gifts in the kingdom of God, the gaining of the desires of the heart and the soul, and the meeting of God in the world of eternity. In the same way, the punishments of the other world consist in being deprived of special divine blessings and the absolute bounties, and falling into the lowest degrees of existence. He who is deprived of these divine favors, although he continues after death, is considered as dead by the people of truth.
So again, what obviously there's no way we can experience any of this until we leave the physical and go to the spiritual realm. But I'm looking at those
No,
things.
he doesn't say that.
Well, correct
Because
me.
he says
You're
here,
right.
even though we are still in the body, okay, a man may be either in heaven or in hell while still in the body.
You're
He
right. You're
says that.
right. I
So,
would love to pretend that I made that mistake deliberately, but I didn't. Hey, Alice. But and so I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at what in my book is on the previous page. Heaven is harmony with God's will and with our fellows,
right,
and hell is the want of
of
such
this harmony.
harmony.
That's right.
Heaven is the condition of spiritual life. Hell is that well, I need to say that differently. Heaven is the condition of spiritual life, as you said it, and hell that of spiritual
Death.
death. And Abdul Baha goes on to say, when men are delivered through the light of faith from the darkness of their vices and become illuminated with the radiance of the Son of Reality and ennobled with all the virtues, they esteem this as the greatest reward, and they know it to be the true paradise. So we can, as you pointed out, we can experience heaven or hell in this existence. You said something to me before we began today. Do you remember what that was? I think it's quite pertinent to what we're reading right now.
Well, I think it's important for us to. It was kind of a thought that I had I felt it was kind of interesting that our life's transitions are always from a state of darkness into a state of light. As
Ah.
we are born, we go from the darkness of the mother's womb
Mm-hmm.
into the light of the material world.
Uh-huh.
When we die, we go from the darkness of the grave into the light of the spiritual world.
I just think,
So
yeah, yeah.
it just seems to me that that confirms that we are spiritual beings as we make these transitions. We the nature and because the nature of all things is that nothing ever disappears, it simply changes forms, and that confirms that as far as I can see.
Yeah, but I got to admit, I don't know, is it so bad to have a cloud to sit on and a harp to play? Is it so bad? Obviously, I'm being a little facetious here, but Abdul Baha points out the rewards of the other world. He doesn't say anything about clouds and harps, and he says the perfections and the peace obtained in the spiritual worlds after leaving this world, the spiritual graces, the various spiritual gifts in the kingdom of God, the gaining of the desires of the heart and the soul. Think about that, the gaining of the desires of the heart and the soul.
Sounds like heaven to me.
Yeah. And the meeting of God in the world of eternity. But then there's the other side. He doesn't leave that out in the same way. The punishments of the other world consist in being deprived of the special divine blessings and the absolute bounties. And when it says the punishments of the other world, I think we need to point out that, the idea of, and this is just me talking, I want to make that clear, but the idea of God, this supreme being, taking deliberate action to enact punishment on a soul is not really even necessary. It's more self-inflicted.
Oh, you think so?
It's more so the punishments of the other world consist of being deprived of the special divine blessings and the absolute bounties and falling into the lowest degrees of existence. He who is deprived of these divine favors, and this is something else, although he continues after death, is considered as dead by the people of truth. I just, I mean, it changes the, I don't know, the vantage point and the perception of it's like no, there's not this again this supreme being say, well, this is what I'm going to do to you. No, this is what you do to yourself
Right.
if you deprive yourself of all of these wonderful things that God has just to me made part of the fabric of existence. Again, just me.
Okay. The wealth of the other world is nearness to God.
Say that again, please.
The wealth of the other world is nearness to God. Consequently, it is certain that those who are near the divine court are allowed to intercede, and this intercession is approved by God.
Uh,
I'm not going to let you stop me here.
okay. Okay.
It is even possible that the conditions of those who have died in sin and unbelief may become changed. That is to say, they may become the object of pardon through the bounty of God, not through his justice, for bounty is giving without desert, and justice is giving what is deserved. As we have the power to pray for these souls here, so likewise we shall possess the same power in the other world, which is the kingdom of God.
Hmm.
Therefore, in that world also they can make progress.
Hold
Uh,
it.
uh,
I know you said you weren't gonna like yeah, yeah. Are you saying that even if you come to the end of this physical life and for whatever reason you are in a spiritual state of what some may think of as hell, are you saying that that is not necessarily eternal?
no, absolutely not necessarily eternal.
So what what creates at least the possibility of someone going from the darkness into the light after they have left the physical realm?
God's mercy, justice, intercession, all of the above.
Okay. Okay, okay. Because let's face it, most of those, I don't know whether we're talking, spiritual writings from other faiths, but also fiction that has kind of worked its way, some great fictional writings that have kind of worked their way, into the general consciousness, I would dare say. The impression is that you either get it right here or you're done.
Well, if you consider that in this material world, if you consider that your existence is finite, I can see how you would believe that. But you have to understand that your existence at the point of death is not finite. It's not over, which means,
Ooh.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which means that things go on, and if things continue, then they are subject to change, and they are subject to God's will, which can affect all change.
Yeah. I got to tell you, as I set up my drum machine for later, I get so much peace and reassurance when I read that because public confession, I still ain't got it all right.
Okay.
And it's good to know not only that, well, I'm kind of getting ahead of things, but again, that no, when you leave this physical realm, whatever may be the condition of your soul, it's not stuck there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Therefore, in that world also, they can make progress. As here they can receive light by their supplications, there also they can plead for forgiveness and receive light through the entreaties and supplications. Before and after putting off this material form, there is progress in perfection, but not in state. There is no other being higher than a perfect man. But man, when he has reached this state, can still make progress in perfections, but not in state, because there is no state higher than that of a perfect man to which he can transfer himself. He only progresses in the state of humanity, for the human perfections are infinite.
So, okay, no, go ahead.
Thus,
Go ahead, finish.
however, thus, however learned a man may be, we can imagine one more learned. Hence, the perfections of humanity are endless. Man can also make progress in the perfections after leaving this world.
So I know that in other writings, Abdul Baha says there's only progress, there is no egress in the spiritual realm, at least.
Right.
And there's also no standing still. You either are progressing, and while you might not be literally falling back, everything else is progressing while you may be not progressing as quickly, or while you may be. I mean, I'm not going to say there's no standing still, there is change. Um, but I find this interesting that he points out that, he talks about before and after putting off this material form, there is progress in perfection, but not in state. There is no other being higher than a perfect man. In other words, you're always going to be considered a human being, at least even in the spiritual realm. At least, again, that's my understanding. That's the way I'm reading this. Uh, but even within that state of being, a member of humanity, your, let's say, your qualities, my words, you can get better. You can get spiritually, you can progress still spiritually.
Exactly.
Yeah, but again, you'll still be, your soul will still be that of a human. I don't know how else to say that. I think I probably made it less understandable than it was printed on the page. But it says he
Let's hope
only
not.
progresses in the he only progresses in the state of humanity. For the human perfections are infinite. So, however learned a man may be, we can imagine one more learned. You can get better. Okay, what's Pete showing you there?
What was the opening prayer and on what page? I don't have that.
You just opened it up. We don't recall.
It was in the Baha'i prayers, and it was on the section on humanity. Human.
Since Daryl put his book down, I guess it's time for a song. Um, we have a few people sitting there, and you all, of course, are free to sit there, but I know that our setup here is probably in the way of your line of sight, so please feel free to move if you choose to. This song is a song that we have done many times, not here on our devotion, because frankly, it's usually done when someone in the area passes away.
Yeah.
And yet, it's not just meant for that. It's called The Soul Goes On, but it's meant to remind us that, physical death is
It's
not the
not
end
the
of our
end.
existence
Yes.
of our existence. This life we share has good and evil too. Sometimes there's tears and sometimes laughter. Something to learn for everything you do. The soul you are is forever after. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. You won't be here forever. One day you'll have to go. From here to there, you're just switching places. You're leaving the spiritual, physical, going to the spiritual. You'll get there and you'll see familiar faces. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. Don't know what heaven's like. Don't need to know. Whatever it is, you'll see when you get there. Everybody's got some seed. We all just need to sow. Do what good you can now. Don't just sit there. The soul goes on. Oh, the soul goes on. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. Oh, the soul goes on. God tells us death is a messenger of joy. He says you got no need to grieve. Your last day here on earth is your first in the Abraham kingdom. When the prison of the body sets the spirit free. Soul goes on. Soul goes on. Soul goes on. Creator gave you life, and man gave you a name. How you live and learn is all you got. Let virtue be your wealth, and love all just the same. Don't let this time be all for naught. The soul goes on. 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 The soul goes The soul goes on. It does not cease to exist. Depending on the context, that song can obviously have a rather sad feel because it's often sung, as I said, when we have lost a loved one, someone we
Right.
know. But it also has a happy story to it. We've got some more people coming in. Good morning. We're glad you're here.
Hello, Sylvia.
Well, Daryl, We're going to actually, it's time to move to a new
Oh, okay.
topic.
All
It's
right.
time to move
Yes.
to a new topic. And this topic, it's kind of a continuation of this theme we read about, life after death and heaven and hell. Now we are going to start reading about the oneness of the two worlds. And those two worlds we're talking about are the physical and the
And the spiritual.
spiritual.
Yes.
And I kind of messed up on one of the lines there. I mixed them up. I said spiritual and leaving the spiritual, and I corrected it, but instead leaving the spiritual and going to the physical, leaving the physical and going to the spiritual. And this is saying they're not really two different worlds. So you want me to begin reading?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is again the oneness of the two worlds. The unity of humanity is, as taught by Baha'u'llah, refers not only to men still in the flesh, but to all human beings, whether embodied or disembodied. Not only all men now living on the earth, but also in the spiritual world as well, are parts of one and the same organism, and these two parts are intimately dependent one on the other. Spiritual communion, one with the other, far from being impossible or unnatural, is constant and inevitable. Those whose spiritual faculties are as yet undeveloped are unconscious of this vital connection. I'm going to read that again. Those whose spiritual faculties are as yet undeveloped are unconscious of this vital connection. But as one's faculties develop, communications with those beyond the veil gradually become more conscious and definite. See, now, if you were reading this is where I'd say, wait a minute, Daryl.
Well, that's kind of scary, don't you think?
It is. And yet, still, I mean, when you read the context in which it's stated, there's a beauty to it. But yeah,
Of
when you
course.
think about how popular culture has presented the ideas of an afterlife to us through horror movies
Right.
and so forth and so on, yeah, it's a scary thought. But when we think of these all as simply part of, God's creation,
Yeah.
I personally feel there's a beauty to it. It all depends, I guess, on how you look at it. Um, to the prophets and saints, this spiritual communion is as familiar and real as our ordinary vision and conversation to the rest of mankind. Abdul Baha says, the visions of the prophets are not dreams. No, they are spiritual discoveries and have reality. They say, for example, I saw a person in a certain form and I said such a thing and he gave such an answer. This vision is in the world of wakefulness and not in that of sleep. Nay, it is a spiritual discovery. Among spiritual souls, there are spiritual understandings, discoveries, a communion which is purified from imagination and fancy, an association which is sanctified from time and place. So it is written in the gospel that on Mount Tabor, Moses and Elias came to Christ, and it is evident that this was not a material meeting. It was a spiritual connection. Or, I'm sorry, it
A
was a
spiritual
spiritual
condition.
condition. Communications such as these are real and produce wonderful effects in the minds and thoughts of men and cause their hearts to be attracted. And this is coming from Abdul Baha in Some Answered Questions, which is a text that there's very likely we'll be reading in the future. Some Answered Questions is a
Sure.
possibility. While admitting the reality of supernormal psychic faculties, he, Abdul Baha, deprecates, or maybe I should say Baha'u'llah, deprecates attempts to force their development prematurely. No, that is coming from Abdul Baha. I'll read that again. While admitting the reality of supernormal psychic faculties, he deprecates attempts to force their development prematurely. These faculties will unfold naturally when the right time comes, if we only follow the path of spiritual progress which the prophets have traced for us. He says, this is interesting. He says, to tamper with psychic forces while in this world interferes with the condition of the soul in the world to come. These forces are real. but normally are not active on this plane. The child in the womb has its eyes, ears, hands, feet, etc., but they are not in activity. The whole purpose of life in the material world is the coming forth into the world of reality, where those forces will become active. They belong to that world. And that might be a good place for us to stop, you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we will continue reading more about the oneness of the two worlds, the spiritual and the physical world. We will continue that next week. And at this time, as always, we like to have some time where anyone who would choose to offer up a prayer or song or reading of your choosing, this is that time. And as always, we first like to start with the people in Zoom. But this is also a time where anyone who's here in the room with us can do that. But we like to start first. I see that Andy Murphy is with us today.
Welcome back,
Yes,
Andy.
we're so glad you're here. And
Hey.
Andy, do you have something you'd like to share with us today?
Mhm.
We can barely hear you. I think I'm going to have to turn up this
Oh, wait a minute.
uh, slider here. Hang on.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear? Can you hear
Yes.
me now?
Now we hear you.
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's not on your end, it's on our end.
Say God sufficeth all things above all things, and nothing in the heavens or the earth but God sufficeth. Verily, He is in Himself the knower, sustainer, the omnipotent. Say God sufficeth all things above all things. Nothing in the heavens or the earth but God sufficeth. Verily, He is in Himself the knower, sustainer, the omnipotent.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to share?
Sure. Aloha, good morning. How are you today?
Good
Aloha,
morning,
Terry.
Terry.
Good to see you.
All right. Praise be thou, O Lord my God. I bear witness that from eternity thou wert exalted in thy transcendent majesty and might, and to wilt to eternity abide, to the surpassing power and glory. None in the kingdoms of earth and heaven can frustrate thy purpose. None throughout the realms of revelation and of creation can prevail against thee. At thy command thou dost what thou willest, and by the power of thy sovereignty thou rulest as thou pleasest. I implore thee, O thou who causest the dawn to appear, by thy lamp which thou didst light with the fire of thy love, before all that are in heaven and on earth, into whose flame thou feedest with the fuel of thy wisdom, and the kingdom of thy creation, to make me to be of those who have soared in thine atmosphere and surrendered their will to thy decree. I am all wretchedness, O my Lord, and thou art the most powerful, the Almighty. Have pity upon me by thy grace and bountiful favor, and graciously aid me to serve thee and them that are dear to thee. Potent art thou to do as thou willest. No God is there but thee, the God of strength, glory, and wisdom. That's some prayer and meditation.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to share? Anyone?
Oh God, make me a heart low reed, from which the pith of self hath been blown, that I may become a clear channel through which thy love may flow to others.
Thank you, Daryl. I thought you were going to repeat that verse as you usually do, but we'll settle for one time.
Well, he only needs to do it once because that pith has already been blown out.
uh, and now, as usual, as always, we like to remind you that this is not just a two-person effort. This is a multi-community effort, and a lot of other people that are helping us, just bring this program to you every week. Um, and so it's a joint community effort, and we really enjoy doing it. And we really appreciate those of you who come and join us in Zoom, and those who join us either during the time that we are actually doing this program, or who choose to view it at a later time. You stream it through the clearwaterbahais.org website, or you can come to my Facebook page and also see it. Um, but a lot of times we get feedback from those people, some in real time right here, which we cannot see, but we still
Right.
appreciate it and we can see it later.
But
I'm
you can
resisting
also
the
see it
impulse to go ahead.
on the YouTube channel,
That is true.
Clearwater Clearwater website,
Yeah, yeah.
YouTube channel.
I'm resisting the impulse to get up and go look at the comments that are scrolling, but we see you out there. It's just these old eyes can't read them from this far off. But for anyone who would like to get more information about the Baha'i faith, whether you are a Baha'i or a friend of the faith or someone who's simply more curious, you want to maybe develop, a higher spiritual walk than you currently are experiencing, or again, just curious. Um, there are some definitive and authoritative websites that you can go to. You might even have people in your community, Baha'is in your community that you can talk to. And there are ways that they can even find out who might be in their community. But right now, some of the the easiest, most accessible sources are, what are they, Daryl?
www.baha'i.org, www.baha'i.us, www.bahaiteachings.org, or if you happen to be in the Tampa Bay area or in the Clearwater area, you can always go to the Clearwater Baha'i website at www.clearwaterbahais.org.
And we might also want to point out that if you happen to be in the I'm in the Baha'i area, in the Clearwater area, you might want to stop by the Clearwater Baha'i Center sometimes. I mean, we actually have people sitting in the room right now. I don't know. Is there a program coming up after this? Okay. But there are chairs here for anyone who would like to come and join us in real time at uh, 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I always feel like there's something else that needs to be said.
I think there is. You know, what I will tell you is that if you happen to be one of those people in this world who are loved, you are truly, truly blessed. If you are one of those people who has the wherewithal and the means to share that love, I can tell you that the world around you will be blessed. And it's the simplest, smartest, easiest thing that you can do. It's not going to cost you a dime. All you have to do is share the love. And that's the only thing I will ever ask you to do is to share that love. Thank you for joining us this morning.
people of justice, be as brilliant as the light and as splendid as the fire that blazed in the burning bush. The brightness of the fire of your love will no doubt fuse and unify the contending peoples and kindreds of the earth, whilst the fierceness of the flame of enmity and hatred cannot but result in strife and ruin. We beseech God that he may shield his creatures from the evil designs of his enemies. He verily hath power over all things. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Watch over yourselves, for the evil one is lying in wait, ready to entrap you. Gird yourselves against his wicked devices, and led by the light of the name of the all-seeing God, make your escape from the darkness that surroundeth you. Let your vision be world embracing, rather than confined to your own self. These are the words of Baha'u'llah. Be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Let your vision be world embracing. Have yourself a good week, folks. Hopefully we'll see you here
Aloha.
next Sunday. Aloha pa. Take care.
Aloha. Take care.
I'm not used to applause.
Neither.
That's nice. Although I will say, Pete did applaud the song last week, and I said, Daryl never applauds.
Oh, hey, tell you what, I'll go you one better. Let me give you guys a special accolade.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you,
Andy.
Andy.
Thank you. I'm gonna take this off and I want to go see who's in the Facebook in the Facebook crowd. Is that the right word? No, in our Facebook audience. And so have a good week, folks. Now, there's another program going on out here.